Hello?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah. The next on the agenda, if all the commissioners had a chance, for the approval of the approval for March 20th, 2024 meeting. May I get a motion on that, please?
Make a motion that we approve the March 20th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Second.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Shu,
Yes.
Commissioner Francis.
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miles,
Yes.
Commissioner Stowe.
Yes. Next on the agenda is the final plat for approval of Parkview Heights.
Good evening, members of the Planning and Zoning Committee. Thanks for allowing us to come tonight. We just about finished with Phase 1 of Parkview. We finally were able to get blacktop down. We're almost finished, and I've come to beg for just a little bit of a leniency. Philip, what was the term you said to ask for?
It's something we've done in the past, so do you care if I add in? Okay. So what's taking place? You basically have a, phase 1 of this development that's been ongoing for a while, and, they are substantially complete with that phase, but there's a few things they've got to finish. For example, the, initial coat of blacktop went down today, so they've got a few things to finish, which will be done hopefully in the next week, 2 weeks. So they've requested to go ahead and be on the agenda to get contingent approval upon administrative approval, so they don't have to wait and come back next week before they can start working on deeds and sell lots and all those things. So it would be like we've done in the past. It would just be contingent upon administrative approval. So when they finish everything, all the items are checked off, then it'd be approved by the administrative official, and we'd move on with the final plat.
So you have went over this with him, you met with him on this?
Yeah, there's been inspections conducted, but it's at this point in time, it's not finished and not approved. There's a few things they've got to button
Yeah,
up.
we'll have the final base coat for all the roads done by lunchtime tomorrow. So we
So-
really didn't want to wait a whole another month if we're so close. And we'd have had it if it hadn't rained for 4 days last week.
So this is what you, about the blacktop, about the base coat for it?
Yeah, we've got the road signs up. We've got the storm all working, all the infrastructure's in, with the exception of a few of the electric lines, which is not one of the minimum requirements. So we were really hoping to move this along. It's been a long time. So
Got any
I'm
more
here to beg
questions?
for just a little bit of leniency on that.
Got any more questions from commissioners? May I get a motion on this? For the approval for this? What stipulations we have to put on here, Philip, for this?
What we've done in the past is administrative approval, so when they complete everything, it's signed off on, and like we do on other. So keep in mind, for the benefit of the board, this is a final plat. So the preliminary and all those details, that's all already done and approved. They've just now built what was already approved. So when final plats come before you, it's really just to say, is it ready, or what's, but all the initial approvals and everything are already done, construction documents, all that stuff. So what this really does is allow them to begin working, creating the
Yeah.
deeds and be able to transfer land to builders, so the builders can then build the new residential construction dwellings.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept the variance of administrative
Approval.
approval. Thanks.
I second.
Yeah, so if I may maybe clarify, it would just be a motion to approve the final plat upon
Oh, okay.
administrative approval. or
Pending
contingent upon-
administrative
yes.
approval, yeah.
Mr. Shu, are you still good with that motion? Okay. Commissioner Shu,
Yes.
Commissioner Francis,
Abstain?
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miles,
Yes.
Commissioner Estelle.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
This next agenda is the zone map amendment for Leslie P. Renfro and Brenda K. Renfro. Property located at 735 Tower Drive, currently zone R1C, proposed zone AG. And before we go any further, this is a public hearing on this. So anyone that's for it or anyone that's against it, you will have a chance to speak. Only thing that we ask for is that we don't repeat ourselves. This comes up, we don't want to repeat ourselves on this. But it is a public hearing, so everyone will have, from both sides, to have remarks on it.
Can I get clarified too, why there wasn't a sign up?
There is a sign, but the address, it's on Tower Drive. Yeah, I saw it myself. It
Where
was
the,
at the first
where
sign.
the gates are?
Where the what is?
Where the gates are there? Between the two houses?
I believe Dr. Miller means a new sign.
A new sign? I'm not sure about a new sign. I know the original sign was there and then it was put up, but I saw that one myself.
But, yeah, I did too originally.
Between the two houses where you access it from Tower
But
Drive.
I got a picture, there's no sign.
Will we have to have another one for this meeting, though?
I was advised that since you tabled this last time, there is no new sign that goes, but I did send out new letters. It went through all the other things, just no new sign went up. That was from legal counsel.
Philip?
And if I may, if that's going to be an issue, happy to come back whenever you tell me to come back.
No, we just checking to see that it would be okay to do it. We, just to be,
Yeah, it's nothing that the project really, it's just that the sign is, we like people to know.
Of course, yeah, I want everybody to, well, that's the.
but
that's the rule.
I think everyone did get the letters, though. So they were notified. So long as they've got the letters, I think we can go ahead with it then.
If I may. So we are, the last time we were before you, the question becomes, let's put some restrictions on it to make it more reasonable and more palatable. So we've got approximately, let's call it 27 acres, and those 27 acres are not subject to the restrictions of the subdivision. However, my client wishes to have a couple horses. Wants to build a house there, have a couple horses, and currently, due to the fact that it's zoned residential, horses are frowned upon. Rather than do it and not ask for permission, we've asked for a zone change for it to be agricultural. Now, the restrictions that we've kind of went into a banter back and forth of what do you think is appropriate, what is reasonable. My client wishes to suggest that you require him to fence the entire property. Now, that's a significant undertaking, expense-wise. It's real. The other issue is, well, how many cows, how many horses can we have? So the University of Kentucky Martin Gatton College of Agriculture has opined that there are 2 acres per pasture cow. We're not farming. We want pets. So we suggest that it seems reasonable to do 25% less. I want 10 cows and or horses total. And to be quite honest, I don't know if a cow will ever be there. We like horses. The little boy likes horses. So Papa likes horses. So that's what we've asked. Other than that, it's simply, currently, it's zoned residential. Only one house can be built on it. If zoned agricultural, there's no difference there. It'd be one house to be built on it. And within agricultural zones, there's no prohibition of additional structures, whether we call it a barn or a shed. It's irrelevant. We can build a barn, so there's no difference. The only difference is little boy wants a pony. and that's what he wants. And ultimately, I think the comprehensive plan does suggest that we utilize the lands for their best uses. Here, we have 27 acres zoned residential, which you're only allowed to build one house on, period. That's all you can do on it. Well, if you can do more, then I think that's the best use. We're not talking about a agricultural crop growing scenario. You can't grow crops out there. It doesn't work. But you all asked that we propose restrictions. I find that those be extremely reasonable restrictions given the facts that are before you. I don't think we need to have a restriction that says that we can't grow corn. We can't grow corn out there anyway. It's not going to be that type of scenario. But I'm certainly open to the conversation, and we have open ears.
Was
We
that
have a
what
goal.
was that what you and Tyler,
Excuse me?
did you and Tyler have a discussion over this?
Mr.
Tim.
Frazier and I have had discussions. Yes, sir.
And that's what y'all come to terms with?
And, well, no, sir, he would have never divested your all's authority to agree upon anything, Mr. Frazier.
No, I'm not
And I
saying
didn't-
agree, but that's what y'all discussed.
We had discussed that, however, I don't wish to
Yeah, I know.
impugn his thoughts. I'm not gonna do it. He's not here, and I don't wanna do that. He and I talked about it, and I said, that's what I think's reasonable, what he and I discussed. He asked me how my kids were doing. We had that conversation. We didn't get into the meats and potatoes of it. And I don't wish to opine that we did. That wouldn't be fair.
Can I ask you a
Oh,
question?
please, yes, ma'am.
I thought in reading the covenants of the subdivision that there were already 3 lots that were approved for equine.
So the restrictive covenants can say that they can do X, Y, and Z. However, because it's zoned the way it is, we're not allowed to have horses. We're not allowed to have poultry. The zoning is what we would violate if we did what we wish, not the restrictive covenants.
Okay.
Restrictive covenant says, sure, knock it out. However, we want to do it the right way. And I could absolutely do what I wished out there. However, it would be in violation of zoning, not the restrictive covenants. And to be quite frank with you, I doubt you would ever know. However, that's not the way in which my client wishes to operate, and let's do it the right way, and that's why we've came before you, and the reason why we've asked, we propose this, and we're all ears. If there's a better idea, we're happy to entertain anything. Little boy wants a pony. And that's as simple as I can make it. He's not going to farm it in the simple term of farming. It's the way the land lays as the deepest corner of the yellow into the blue. There's a valley there and a ridge, and that's the reason why the developer, who was attempting to make as much profit as possible, as you would expect, that's the reason why this tract is that big. The way the land lays, it wouldn't allow for the development. If it would have, I can promise you that circle would have been bigger. Yeah, please. This is it. Yeah, so this area here, I can promise you, it would have been developed if the developer could. Now, I've been out there, and along this ridge here, it's deep. He can't bush hog it. And I also wish to mention this here, my client bush hogs. That's owned by the HOA. So he takes his tractor up there and he does bush hog that at no expense. He takes care of his land and, and his neighbor. Not a bad neighbor. And, whatever he does after he's dead and gone, we're all dead and gone. If that land in the middle there, if it grows up, that'll be a sin on whoever else is running the HOA. But there will be a fence there if you deem it to be a restriction. And there will not be no more than whatever number of horses and cattle combined that you wish to do. It will run with the land. It won't just be applicable to the owner. It will run with the land. Therefore, you'll be able to protect the homeowners who bought a subdivision, not a farm.
Philip, let me ask you a question. When we brought that in, wasn't that all brought in to be developed? Can you remember?
That particular track was part of the overall development, and Tower Drive and Star Court or whatever, there was that connected all the way through there. And in order to not connect those and spend that money, that's how this tract became about and how the restrictions on it as far as one house and all that stuff, or no future
But
development.
it was brought in to where it could be developed on?
Well, it was supposed to be connected, that would develop it. If you connect Tower and go through that blue area to Star, that would develop that section of it. That was originally, if I'm not mistaken, that was taken out, so they didn't have to do that big connection, and then they had this remainder track, and in order to do the remainder track, and part of the detention area, he's talking about mowing flows through that, overflows through that track. That was the agreement the developer made.
I'm getting a little different story than what we said last time. Last time said that we couldn't develop that because there was no exit. There was too many homes in that subdivision to be able to develop that other section. Is that true, or?
It has one 50-foot road frontage where the sign was, we were talking about earlier,
That's right.
supposed to be. So the reason why you can't subdivide it out is because you have to have road frontage for every tract, every lot. And so you have one big huge tract with one 50-foot road frontage. So in order to put multiple houses, you have to figure out how to have road frontage for each tract. And in the city, you're supposed to have one dwelling on one lot. And they've already tried to subdivide it, and that's where we ran into the trouble with that.
Okay.
We didn't try to subdivide it. That was during the development. That was with Mr. Bill Short. And I've represented Mr. Short, and we will try to make it
No,
as
Mr.
much.
Short agreed to not develop.
Correct.
The gentleman owns it now, came in and wanted to subdivide that.
Right.
That is accurate.
However, at this point, we're not asking for more than one home. We're asking for ponies. That's literally the difference. Because I'm allowed to do the house as it's currently zoned, but I'm not allowed to have the pony. Right? Now I'm asking you to take it agricultural with the acreage, one house. That's it. That's the only difference. It's just the livestock. That's it.
Who's going to be responsible for the burden of the fence?
My client.
Renfro's going to fence it all and maintain it,
My client will fence it all, maintain it.
so the
Period.
homeowners will have
Nope,
any expense at all.
we won't ask any single lot owner to go to the middle and look to their right and say, that's your cattle fence.
Right.
No. No, and we're happy to acknowledge that restriction in any resolution that you wish to draft.
Got any more questions? Philip, you got anything else?
No, sir.
At this time, do we have someone that opposes it? Okay. Just come up, give your name, please.
Good evening. And Mr. Chairman, I do have comments from other neighbors in the community who are unable to come. Am I allowed to read those initially?
She's got letters here.
Okay. The first one comes from Mr. Greg Anskovich. He's at 224 Page Drive in the neighborhood. My wife and I are very much opposed to changes to the current zoning, no matter what the plans and restrictions are now for agriculture. A good lawyer can make changes in the future that could affect our home values and our quality of life. We all purchased our properties based on the fact that the land was zoned as residential for one house, and we want it to stay that way. It is already very difficult to get in and out of our neighborhood due to traffic. What if this increases the traffic? And again, that's Mr. Greg Anskovich at 224 Page Drive. The second comes from, sorry about that. The second comes from Miss Sandy Davis at 220 Page Drive. And again, her concern is she was told that the reason that the area would be maintained as a green space, and concerned, she said horses are okay, but she was concerned about the possibility of cattle coming in and what will that do to property values in our neighborhood, as well as potential traffic issues. There was a concern for that, and she wants to make sure that the residential subdivision remains residential. And again, that's Sandy Davis at 220 Page Drive. I'm Zadana Slate. I'm at 737 Tower Drive, and so my property is, as we're looking at the map, to the left of the easement. And so just for clarity, the fence would go around the entire blue space? Is that what we're proposing? So the horses would be able to roam the entire blue area? Is that what are the ponies? Okay.
Yeah.
So, when I came to the first meeting, I provided my name, contact information. I provided, an opportunity to be able to speak with the neighborhood. I wasn't contacted. I think during this time, a community benefits agreement or some sort to be able to get the buy-in and support is very much important because, again, it's more than just one kid who wants a pony. There are other kids in the neighborhood, myself. What does this do in terms of long-term economic, environmental opportunities as well, horse flies, everything that, agriculture does attract as I would like to enjoy my backyard and other people. So again, wasn't contacted until I literally came and stood in the back. And, it's not a way to be neighborly or do anything, and I think that should be a part of the consideration in terms of how do we as a community move forward, and not just within Orchid Hills, but beyond. And so, again, I do continue to oppose this until we can come together, and it doesn't have to be with our HOA, but simply those who border it, those with an interest, just to have a concern and discuss and talk about it. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that opposes?
Let's have some discussion. Have some discussion. I don't think that this is a really great idea. The city really doesn't want agricultural land. They only want agricultural land that's going to be developed. And it really doesn't go well with our comprehensive plan. Once you allow this to occur, what's going to happen is you could theoretically even run cattle down the street. I mean, you could. There's no restriction to that. Or horses or whatever. So it's an R1C area. It needs to stay an R1C area. I just don't see the reason to move it to agriculture.
I agree with you, Dr. Miller. And the other thing is, not every resident is here to represent themselves, and we don't know what they were told when they purchased that property. I can't assume that they would be okay with it, but just hearing from the three people that did, they did not want to buy a farm. It sounds like they wanted their home with the green space behind it. And as a representative for them, we need to represent those people, their intentions, and represent the city's intention with their comprehensive plan. So,
Is there anyone else?
I disagree. I would love to have horses in my backyard, and to me, so you have a little space that can never be made into a residential area. I think it's nice to use it. I think it's nice to keep it mowed down, so that you don't have, overgrowth. And I'm seeing 4 people that are against, and I don't know how many homes are there, but it tilts that most people don't have a problem with it.
I think the other issue we can look at too is how many developers have subdivisions that haven't even completed their agreements 7, 8 years later that we're having to chase down now for them to complete their work. If this happens out here and it's changed to agriculture, what means do you have to enforce those rules?
Every city and every town is different, but I'm not going to name the town around here close to us. This is a similar situation, and they bought their property thinking that that's what they were getting. And come to find out, and I'm not saying that you would do it to anybody, but end up with a hog farm right next to them.
Well, let's restrict us from having hogs.
I know, but I'm not
Yes,
saying.
put me restrictions. What I'm
Okay,
saying.
can I?
Please,
can I talk?
absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Staff.
But, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that that's what it would be. But my point is that people had purchased that property just for that. And that's what it was supposed to be developed for, was for homes. We brought it in homes. And we never went back, not saying that we will or we won't, to go back to AG. Whatever they brought it in for, that's what it stood for right there. They brought it in, and after they found out that they couldn't develop it. And that's just the way it stayed.
May I respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is an open forum, and due process, which is established in our Constitution, allows us to come here and say, I want to change something. So to say that just because that there was a subdivision plat approved does not mean that we're not allowed to come back and say, we need to change this. The comprehensive plan directs that the best usage of land be used. Here, we're not changing anything. There's one house, which is what's allowed right now. One house, that's it. That's the only difference. Traffic, that's an irrelevant concern. It's one house. You know, there's not going to be multiple improvements. In fact, the restrictive covenants only say that it can be one house because the restrictive covenants very plainly state no more additional development. Okay? Now, the home value. Well, I can promise you this. We're not going to bush hog ever again. Diesel. Bush hog, sharpening the bush hog. You know, one person appeared with notes from 3 other people. They bought an old farm and put their house on it. That's what they bought. It was a lot on an old farm. And now the other side, that is farmland. As you look where the mouse is pointed, those are hay bales. We're not talking about buying in the middle of Lake Reba and then somebody coming in and putting in horses. This property was annexed into the city of Richmond. The idea that it shall be maintained as a green space is asinine. It is owned by an individual who purchased the property, and he has the right to use that property pursuant to the rules, regulations, city ordinance of this county and state. He doesn't have to mow it. He doesn't have to use it. Quite simply, what he has asked for is to put a couple of horses out there for the grand boy. That's it. We wish to subject ourselves to restrictions. The idea that this county in particular, which was a part of the history which established one's right to use one's land, I'm not allowed to have a horse out there, that's a difficult pill to swallow. Even at the point where we're saying, tell me how many horses I can have. Tell me how many cows tell me no cows. Give the boy his pony. What else can you do with it? As of right now, one house on 27 acres. Now, when the neighbors realize that one house is going to be up to the near of the road and the rest of it is going to be grown with briar and bush and everything else that happens on agricultural land that's not taken care of, that's not for their benefit. They may not understand what happens on an agricultural tract. But 27 acres being called a single-family residence in Madison County, I don't know if there's too many more of them. I don't believe. Let's think of your bigger tracts. I don't know if there's any 27-acre tracts that I've annexed in or I've developed over the last 10 years. Frankly, I don't remember any at least.
Well, you know,
I don't.
you speak of that, but some people might just want the green space.
Well, but it's not theirs.
It's there now.
The blue spot isn't, I promise that. And if they want green space, great. But the idea is you want green space without the pony. That's the difference, right? I think the idea is, we want somebody to bush hog it, spend their money so I can look at it and call it pretty every morning while I drink my coffee without the horse. That's plainly what the difference is. And quite frankly, I don't believe that that's appropriate. I don't believe the comprehensive plan will suggest that a 27-acre tract can only have one house and no other plausible usages. I ask that you guys approve it, and I ask that you restrict it. I think it's fair. There shouldn't be 1,000 head of cattle out there. No, that's not reasonable. What's very reasonable is restrict it. That's very reasonable. That's normal. But saying no, I think that's an unfortunate representation of my city of Richmond.
Does anyone else has anything else to say? Come on, Dustin.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't want this to be a back and forth thing, but one, and I don't know if the entire neighborhood received the letter about today's meeting, or just those on Star and Tower.
Everyone that adjoins the property receives a letter.
Right,
per
so,
law.
so it's a fair representation to say, well, only 4 are here out of the neighborhood, when the entire neighborhood did not get a letter.
Sure.
So I just want to make sure that that's stayed on the record. The second part is, again, it's not a matter of the ponies, the horses, whomever, being there. Again, had we been contacted and had a conversation to discuss as a neighborhood and the owner of that property, just to come up with a compromise to discuss those restrictions, that would have been fine. I don't want a horse hanging its head over my fence when I look at my green space that I pay for and I cut. Whatever's behind there, I don't care. If that was expected to grow up, which I expected it to, that's fine. But I don't want a horse. So even if, and I suggested at the last meeting, even if we say the restriction is the fence is no more within 10 yards or 10 feet or whatever of our property lines, something like that, so it's not, and that's why I asked for clarity, will the entire blue area be fenced in, just so the horse's head just won't hang its head over as my family dog is out there or anything like that. Because again, I have a little Yorkie Chihuahua. I don't need anything, thinking about things like that. But again, not being neighborly to have a conversation and waiting until I walk in and then trying to fast talk is that's not neighborly. That's not reflective of the city of Richmond, if we want to talk about values within the city of Richmond.
If I may, we propose we'll fence it in 3 feet inside of our boundary line. There'll be no heads over the line.
Tyler?
Does anyone else have anything to say? Anyone in favor of it? Do you want to come up? Okay. Any more commissioners? Did we make a motion to,
I would make a motion that we accept Mr. Renfro's zone requests for zone R1C to AG. Don't get me wrong, and the reason I do this is here's a man that has mowed this property and tried to keep it in best shape and trying to do things for the community, and I just feel that way. Sorry. I make a motion we approve it, the zone change.
I second.
Okay. So just so everyone's clear, the motion is to approve the zone change. Just so you're clear. Commissioner Shu,
Yes.
Commissioner Francis,
No.
Commissioner Short.
I'm gonna say yes, but I want to say, I kind of grew up with a situation very similar to this. I'm born and raised here in Richmond my entire life, and I live out on Barnes Mill Road here in town. And I can remember there's a lot back there that was behind the Lackey House, but now is the Grand Campus. And it wasn't near as big as what we were talking about here. And I always remember that there were horses there, and there were a couple horses. If you didn't know they were there, if you didn't live here, you would never have known it. But they were these hunter jumpers that people had, and they made such a minimal impact, but yet the property was cleaned up and kept mowed, and I think that is a big difference. And I agree that if you don't clean it up, you'll be there 63 years. And I never expected to have buildings built around in those areas either. And, I stayed there because I liked it that way. But now, I've got homes there and I've learned to live with that. But I think that they need to do what they want to do with the property. I think it'll be a minimum impact. It's not going to be a big burden since there's the fencing, they're going to take care of all that. They're maintaining the mowing. I think it's a win-win for a lot of situations. But I agree. I want to say yes.
Thanks. Commissioner Miller?
who?
Commissioner Miller?
No.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles?
No.
Commissioner Estelle?
No. And the reason why, give my explanation, is that, and I hope he does, whichever way goes, he keeps it, but a lot of times it goes the other way too. And you've got people that has spent a lot of their fortunes for homes, and that's what they bought it for, because that's what it was gonna be. It was gonna be for that. That's what it was zoned in to be used for. And then to turn around and do this, I think it's injustice for those people that has purchased their homes there. But I vote no.
Sure. So the motion is denied.
Thank you all for your consideration. I appreciate everybody's time.
I was just going to say, unless I'm mistaken, we need a motion to deny it.
Do what now?
Because you just said no to the motion to approve it. Someone needs to make a motion if they wish to deny it.
I'll make a motion that we deny
Okay.
agricultural.
So Commissioner Miles, Commissioner Francis. I think I know how this is going to go, but Commissioner Shu,
No.
Commissioner Francis,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
No.
Commissioner Miller,
This is a motion to say that we denied.
correct.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Perkins,
No.
Commissioner Miles,
Yes.
Commissioner Estelle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Stone, we withdraw our petition. Thank you, sir.
Next on the agenda is the zone map amendment for Hampton 210 LLC, property located at Old Town Branch Road and Congleton Lane, currently are zoned AG, proposed zone R1C and R2.
Good evening, Chairman, Commission members. I got a couple handouts. I'll go ahead and enter these for the record. It's a picture of the sign as well as the. There's two separate documents, so if you take one.
No,
Can everybody hear me all right? My name's Scott Schutte. I'm from the law firm of McBrayer PLLC, and I'm here representing Hampton 210 LLC, which is a sister company of a company called Lone Tree Companies. The two sets of documents I've handed out to you tonight. One is a traffic impact study that was performed by Vision Engineering, and the next is some documents related to this development and the plan that they've put forward. This applicant has taken considerable amount of time before we got to this point and before we got in front of you all to take their time in engineering and designing this layout to really present the least minimal impact on its neighbors. The property, technically on your all's PVA, doesn't have an actual street address. It's listed as Old Town Branch and Congleton Lane. It runs along Hampton Lane and stretches all the way back to the Old Town Estates development. This property is currently zoned agricultural. It has been annexed into the city. It is in the city of Richmond, and it calls for, in your comp plan, for this property to be developed as residential.
But you said this land's agricultural?
Yes, sir.
Because it says on our thing here, it's R1C to R2.
There's two different zone requests. There's an R1C and an R2, and I'll walk you through where those are in just a minute.
Thank you.
But as it stands right now, the entire 207 plus or minus acres is zoned agricultural. And in this set of documents, is the front sheet is just kind of an explanation as to the company that will be developing this and kind of their mission. But if you take a look at the second page and the third page, it kind of lays out where these zones sit and their acreages. As proposed, it has roughly 140 acres as R1C, as your single-family residences, and then about 66 plus or minus acres for the R2 zone. You'll see it broken down better on the third page, but it roughly, if you start on the northwest corner, that is an R2 zone request for 26.3 plus or minus acres. Moving east from there, there's the request for 49.9 plus or minus acres for the R1C. South from there, there's 40 acres requested for R2, and the southern portion is R1C, and that encompasses about 90 acres. As you'll see, though, while the entire 207 acres is being asked to be rezoned, the entire 207 acres is just not feasibly developable. If you've driven out there, if you've gone past this land, it is rather hilly, a lot of crevasses, a lot of valleys. So there will be areas that just simply cannot be developed. The good side of that is that those areas have been essentially developed in a way so that they minimize the impact on these neighboring properties. So if you see here, this is Hampton along here, and it comes down to Old Town Branch. There's currently proposed 2 entrances on Hampton, one there and one there. South of this green space area are some residential lots. As you can see, the developer has attempted to create this area to essentially buffer these properties. And you see here, instead of coming all the way down to this property line, again, they're buffering here. This is obviously this is a choice on the developer's side to essentially build back from these already existing residential lots so that they don't infringe upon these people and put a townhouse or a residence right on the backside of these properties. If you look at the 4th page in that packet, you can see a printout from your all's PVA website that kind of gives you a little understanding of what other properties are around this. You'll see in there, there's the light blue color, which is the ag zone. If you move directly to the northeast of that, you'll see there's a B3 zone. That has recently been changed from B3 to R2. So that is already zoned for townhomes. To the far west is the residential development, and to the south, that dark blue is actually in the county, and that is all zoned UC7, which I believe has a boatload of different uses that can go in those properties. But this property is in the city, it's been annexed, and it's been recommended for residential development. As I said, if you look at your 4th page, that is your all's future land use map from your recently updated comprehensive plan. And you'll see on the far east there is the exact 206 acres that is recommended as residential development. And when you all look at your comp plan and when they determine or they place these future land uses on these pieces of property, they do that with the goal, and this is directly from your comp plan. The location of residential uses is based in large part on the availability of land and character of the surrounding development. So they're not going out there when they develop this future land use map and just picking property out of thin air and saying, well, that looks like it's good residential development land. They're going out and looking at these as well as the surrounding areas to make sure that if they recommend this as residential, that it flows with the surrounding areas. And that's why they've recommended this for residential, because everything around there is residential. It's not ag land, it's residential property. We also believe, and you'll see in our justification that has been submitted with this application, there's quite a few goals and objectives that we believe this development meets for your all's comp plan. And I won't go through them in detail, but we've highlighted them in our justification, and we think it promotes goal 1, 3, 5, and 6. And under that, there's certain objectives that we believe we meet as well. Why we're developing this way, or why has our client taken the time to actually sit down and put this on paper in a way that he thinks diminishes the impact on surrounding properties? And that's because they don't want to be bad neighbors. They want to be good neighbors. There's quite a few people here tonight that are very interested in this development, and rightfully so. It's probably near their residences, and they want to know what's going on. And I think this plan shows a really good depiction of how they are setting these back in a way that I believe exceed your all setback requirements, so they really don't impact these neighboring properties. If you see back here on the R2 area, that's a rather large setback from these residences down here. Instead of extending that another 30, 40 feet down here, they're ending it. And we think that's showing goodwill on behalf of this developer and really taking the time to think about this development. I'm sure you'll hear quite a bit tonight that there's going to be traffic issues and there's going to be a lot of traffic on these roads. One key aspect is there are 2 entrances. It will not be all of these residences coming out of one entranceway. There are 2 entrance points, and none of them come out on Old Town Branch. They're all on Hampton. In that traffic impact study performed by an engineer that does this on a regular basis, you'll see that they come to their conclusions or findings on page 6. They do not identify any serious issues with this development. And that, at the time in which that traffic impact study was done, it was done to the maximum level of residences that could be put on that 206 acres. And Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's about 5.1 units per gross acre. Right. And so that would equate to about 1,000 residences or more in this. And if you look on our exhibit right there, there's only about 500 listed. So we're not looking to overdevelop this. We're not looking to slam houses on top of other houses. We're looking to develop this in a conscientious way. That is why as I said a minute ago, that calculated the numbers as though it was a 1,200 unit development. They went to the high end. They went to the high end to determine if this would actually impact it. And they said even at that increased number, it will not impact the flow of traffic on these roads. And that reasonable minds can disagree, but I would ask the board that they rely upon engineers that do this on a daily basis, that work for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and do projects for the Transportation Cabinet.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Does this transportation study include the 2 parcels that this company is already in the process of developing?
Yes, it has to account for all
And
future.
how many units were those?
I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't involved in that application.
Yeah,
What's that?
well, it's the same company that's developing Hampton Way that we just approved not too long ago.
Only one of them was approved, wasn't it?
Didn't he
of the
get the
2.
second side?
Pardon?
Oh, was it just one?
I think so. The first one they did.
Just the one wasn't
The
filled.
first one got the city turned down,
Oh,
and then the
city
second
turned
one.
down.
Yeah.
If I may,
I just
sir,
didn't know if the impact
But it's
included
it's a potential.
those 5,
Yeah.
it was like 50 duplexes, I think, that are going to be built. 40, okay. Okay.
Sure, and that traffic impact study also accounts for the average growth of residents in Madison County and Richmond as a whole.
So if the traffic's coming in and out on Hampton Way, where does all that traffic go once it gets on Hampton Way? To get to the city of Richmond, to the interstate?
Sure, the same way in which every other resident on Hampton Way would handle that.
Are you familiar with Richmond?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my second question is, and I didn't hear you bring it up, but we do have a lake behind.
Correct.
Has there been like a watershed study to show where all this water's going to go?
That'll all be at the development stage and at the plat approval.
I
Yeah.
understand that. I didn't know if
Correct.
they did a preliminary study.
Not
on
at
that.
this time, no.
Okay.
Any other questions?
This also, is that all you have for?
At this time, yes.
This is also a public hearing. Is there anyone, again, if we can keep from repeating ourselves, just come up to the mic, state your name. I think she's, yep, over here.
How are you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you. I'm Debbie Bessio, live at 204 Crimson Drive, and so I appreciate your time. I placed this together because a lot of times you look at maps like that and you're just, oh, it's a piece of paper or whatever. So what I wanted to do is actually bring you down Hampton Way. And so that on your first page there, and we'll go through this. Of course, there is Hampton Inn, and there's Burger King. Turn the next page, there's a Holiday Express. They're currently building Home 2. So it's a, Home 2 is a hotel, but you stay at an extended time. And page 3 is where they're doing the development work on it. Okay. The next page, there are 2 sets of office buildings. Those have like doctor's offices, there's even a daycare there. There's all kinds of different things there. So those on that page actually have the office buildings that are there, so to give you a feel for it. Okay. Next page. Any questions on that so far? You guys good? Okay, the next page, there are 64 townhomes on there, so 64 units, but each one, of course, if you look at a townhome, it's 2 individual resident areas. So just basically, there's 128 residential areas there. And then, of course, there is the church. And then on the next page, basically, there's like LTC group, and there's 4 under par, and those are all managed out of Springville, Utah, is where they are. And so what I see on there, and it was surprising to hear that the B3 had been changed over to the R2, but anyway, for the one LTC, that's 21 acres all R2. 4 under par is 56.37 acres, and actually your all's current Richmond interactive map is showing 34 acres is R2, and then the rest of it is B3. But anyway, these 2 properties have been approved, but at this point there's no development has been started, and this is the same, well, maybe just a different LLC name, that's asking for a 3rd piece of property that's larger than those 2 properties combined, basically, to change that. They did an impact study, and as you know, we all laugh. It was because it was an impact study on Hampton Way. It wasn't out on Barnes Mill Road. So I think that's where people got to it. And so, you know, the other thing you have to think about is, of course, the traffic, which can't talk about this without traffic, so we'll get to that. But again, it's the safety, it's the police, it's the fire. You know, people, enough police officers, law enforcement, or whatever, to take care of the people that are current residents, as well as you all have approved a lot of other developments out there to actually take care of it. So with your schematic there, and for the ones here that haven't actually seen it, they're proposing 271 homes, 242 townhomes, but again, those would each have 2 residents. And basically, you know, you look at the traffic. But the thing is, the townhomes are like 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom townhomes. I know we've had an issue over on Save-A-Lot where they said they were 2 bedrooms, and then the developer ended up coming in and putting in 3, causing parking problems. So anyway, so that's that. The next page, if you talk about ways to get to that, the back route to this property is actually off of Old Town Branch. To get to it, to leave it or to get to it, to leave it, Old Town Branch, you see a picture of a tunnel, 1-lane tunnel going underneath the I-75. You stop at a stoplight, you have to turn left onto Lancaster, and if you've lived here forever, you know how dangerous Lancaster is. And just to come out of there and turn left, turn right, it's really dangerous. So. Okay, so let's have fun with the traffic. If we can, yes. Oh, there's no light. Thank you. It's a sign. Thank you. Okay, fun with traffic. Next page. As you saw all the pictures of Hampton Way, you know, I showed you the Inn, the Burger King, Holiday Inn Express, all the office buildings, everything that's proposed up there. Next to that is Amberley Way and Colby Taylor Drive. At the end of Amberley Way, there's Castlewood subdivision. That's 84 homes there. There's a Bluebird Office Parkway. There's a senior Senate. There's, of course, Galaxy Bowling. There's 4 hotels, Golden Corral. You know, you can read on and on. 3 smaller restaurants. Now, basically, this is all on the south side. So do you know how many sets of traffic lights control both Hampton Way and Amberley Way? 1. It's just 1. So Hampton comes into Barnes Mill, no traffic lights. So Basically, people are coming in, turning left, turning right, and if a person's on Barnes Mill, you know, and they're really, really nice, they'll stop and let them through, right? So anyway, but, and then I know, basically, we were talking about the traffic study on Congleton. Do you guys know the average daily traffic count for Huggins Lane and I'm sorry, I lost my, on Hampton Way, I'm sorry, and Barnes Mill Road? Do y'all know that? Basically, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, they actually have a website. So you see all those counters and you wonder where all that data goes. They have a website that you can go to and look it up. So basically, back in 2020, during COVID, they set up a traffic counter between Idlewild and Hampton Way. Average daily traffic there during COVID was 11,791 vehicles. So anyway, and I believe it, we drive it all the time. Probably more now. Yeah, because anyway. So I guess what I'm saying is, why would you even consider adding such a high-density zone change to what's already a dense area? And then keep in mind, you also approved the Ramsey project that hasn't begun yet. It's sort of starting, as well as the schools being developed, the parks being developed. You know, it's great for people that want to come to Richmond and develop. However, you know, I think Richmond Planning and Zoning should be working with the community and doing the best for what's going on in the community, and not siding on the developers and the investment companies so they make more money or make a quick return on their investment. So what I'm saying is, you guys just wait. Let's see what happens with what's going on. You've already approved the other areas, and again, they hadn't started that. So anyway, that's why I'm just asking you to vote no. Thank you.
Okay. Ma'am. Can I, just before you start, can I just say something? This, and Ms. Vessio, you're right on the traffic, but a lot of this is through the state. Those are state roads. Richmond has anything, just like Main Street, Richmond has anything to do with that. Now, supposedly, I'm just saying supposedly, I was reading the other day, is it 25 next year, Philip, that the state is starting at Curtis Pike and coming all the way to the interstate for development, and all out in that area, they are going to, I'm just saying this, the money is there for them to do it. I'd rather do it not, and even Goggins Lane all the way over to interstate. But I'm just saying, you know, Richmond, I'm not saying what we do, but it's a lot left to the state. And,
Right,
and we would love if we could get everybody in this room right here and go to Frankfurt and tell them, say, hey, look, this is what we need. We'll take out here and show you to you, how, you know.
And that's the one thing I forgot to mention. I know it's a state road, right? And so we wouldn't put in a stop like they would. There's no service, there's no room for service area. But the thing about it is, it's a state road. However, all of us in this room have to drive it every day, have to come home, go, or whatever. So we can't just use the excuse or the reason that, oh, the state's going to come fix it. It's not the city's problem. Well, it is the city's problem, because you have people that live there that drive every day. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we're not saying, you know, land it all on the state, but, you know, your hands are tied on something. I'm not saying that we should okay it, you know, because we understand what's going on out in that area out there. But our hands are tied to certain, and this board right here is not overlooking none of these citizens. We're trying to do whatever we can that's right. But also you have to understand too, for a city to grow, it's gonna have to be developed.
Oh, right, yeah, it's got to be, and
it's-
you all have already
But it's got to
approved.
be in the right way and in the right place. I agree
Right,
with
and
you.
I'm not saying don't develop it tomorrow, don't approve
Yeah.
it tomorrow. I'm saying these guys need to wait until after we get the Ramsey, we get the park, we get the other stuff. Again, the same company already has gotten approval from you all to do that R2. So that's 70 some odd acres. So we're not doing
Yeah.
that. It's like, why are we in such hurry? You know, they can always come back and ask for a zone change, right, in the future. So you're not saying, no, you can't do it. Basically, you're saying, let's wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yes, ma'am.
So,
There was another gentleman up here. Yeah, right here. Name, please.
Richard Bendur. I'm Deacon Hills resident and secretary of the HOA. That was an excellent presentation, and I don't know what I could add to it except to say that there's plenty of development going on in this local area. Already, it is difficult to get out of off of the Frankie Drive and also for the Idlewild subdivision, the traffic backs up well beyond and almost to Goggins Lane. It's 2 or 3 light changes during rush hour to get a left off Barnes Mill to get onto the interstate. So we're putting the cart before the horse, ladies and gentlemen. Just leave it at that.
Is there anyone else?
How you guys doing? My name's Thomas Jacobs. I represent Barbara and Clark Douglas. They live in Old Town Estates. Address is 334 Adams Hill Drive. Their property actually butts up to the 210 acres, the whole east side of their property. Okay, so it's just under 14 acres. Now, with this change going from agriculture to residential, would completely destroy their livelihood. Okay? They raise cattle to pay for their taxes. Okay, they're both in their early 70s. Okay, they bought this property basically as a nest egg to retire, have fun, grow a little, grow some cattle, raise their own beef, stuff like that, sell the rest for taxes. Now they enjoy the habitat that they have in their backyard. Okay, they see deer, they see turkey, they see fox, all kinds of wildlife. Now, if this changes, all that's going to go away. Not to mention, they're talking about building an annex road, which is just 2 houses down from their residence, where that little line shoots out to your left. That's the annex road. And that comes right down through Old Town Estates. Now, it's already 10 to 15 minutes to get from where they live. It takes about 10 minutes to get from their house to the one-lane tunnel. Okay? That's not only dodging traffic from people running the stop sign, trying to sideswipe them, whatever, because they don't stop. All right? With traffic coming through there, now, again, if you have somebody that does stop to let them through, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But again, if you have some type of medical emergency or anything, that 5 minutes to 10 minutes that could save a life could be a half hour. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, my father-in-law, I don't mean to bring this up, but he had a stroke, so we're dealing with that, and now we're dealing with this. So doing this, I'm sorry, but this is wrong. You're messing with people's lives, their livelihood, let alone, if they wanted to pass this down, they might not be able to because of the way everything's going. Again, they bought this because they wanted to raise their own beef and their own cattle, and have a little fun with it. If this changes, it's not going to happen. And I'm sure everybody else that lives in the same area, you know, some have horses, you know, further down. I mean, others, I don't know if they raise anything or not. But again, if this changes to residential, it's gonna, you know, increase the taxes on their property, and they're not gonna be able to do anything but sit there and look at the grass. Yeah, and the back of their houses and all the backs of that, let alone increase the crime. I mean, we've already had people come through our backyards. I mean, it was a good thing I was living there, or else who knows what have happened. So, I mean, I'm a 20-year veteran myself. So I understand how it goes. Change is inevitable, and change, you cannot stop change. But honestly, I hope you go against this and you don't approve it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Browning. I live at the residence at 100 Congleton Lane. Will be greatly affected by this development. My husband and I purchased the house. We have 5 acres of land. The representative from Hampton LLC says this is a residential area. This is not. This is agriculture. We have horses, we have cattle. We don't personally, but people in the neighborhood do. We have chickens, we raise a garden, we have an orchard. Having this development will destroy our lifestyle. There will be litter that will blow into all of our yards. Our animals may eat it and become very ill. It is not fair to have this. We bought this with agricultural background. This high-density housing development is not needed. It does not benefit anybody in the area. All it does is profit Hampton LLC. It is pure greed. This can be done at a lower density. Not have enough room, student in the school to be in the gym at the same time. 2 classrooms of students have to sit on the floor currently. So with the influx of additional students, maybe hundreds, there's just no space. It's just not a quality of life for us. I urge you to oppose this zoning change. 5.1 units to each acre is just too high of a housing density for this area. It can be done much better. I know we've already mentioned the traffic, and I won't repeat that, but it is a huge concern, along with crime, pollution. There's a pond back there. We have a creek at the edge of our property. Everything will just be littered. Thank you.
I firmly oppose the requested zoning change due to its